What's going on, party people? This is Steven Bagel from the Bird Reds podcast and the Center Hub. I'm here today to discuss something that may become prevalent in the near NBA future, and that is a potential, I suppose, trade of De'Aaron Fox from the Sacramento Kings. So we saw sometime last week that after extending head coach Mike Brown to a 3-year extension last July, the Sacramento Kings, who at the time had a 6-game losing streak, I believe, and they're 12th place in the Western Conference, decided to fire Coach Brown. And that a week before that, we saw, De'Aaron Fox's agent, Rich Paul, met with the Sacramento Kings to discuss the future. And while we don't totally know what that means, the writing is somewhat on the wall. So the Kings did have a 6-game losing streak before winning 2 in a row under new interim head coach Doug Christie. And Fox is extension eligible. He was offered a 3-year, $165 million extension before turning that down this past offseason, which means he wouldn't sign an extension until this upcoming, the 2025 offseason, because he's eligible if he signs this offseason to 4 years, $229 million. Or if he were to make All-NBA this year, he becomes Supermax eligible, which is 5 years and a whopping $345 million if he makes All-NBA, which is conceivable. I mean, De'Aaron Fox he's averaging 27, 5, and 6. I mean, it's not that far-fetched. Obviously, the Kings would need to have a little bit more success, I would say, in order for him to make All-NBA. But again, it wasn't advantageous for him to sign extensions past offseason, especially when it was only 3 for 165. So with that said, when any star player doesn't, sign an extension, the writing automatically becomes on the wall because you don't want to lose that star player for nothing. So I believe it was The Athletic to report it either this morning or recently, either way, that the San Antonio Spurs seem to be the clear frontrunners for a De'Aaron Fox trade. Them, and according to League Intel, a lot of people in the industry believe that the Houston Rockets, obviously with the boatload of picks they have and the ammunition in terms of young players and everything else, appear to be a serious threat too. So those are the two teams I'm going to be talking about today. The Sacramento Kings making a trade with either the San Antonio Spurs or the Houston Rockets for De'Aaron Fox. First, let's talk about the Rockets, because as I said, the Rockets seem to be in the industry the team that most people seem to indicate that De'Aaron Fox will potentially be traded to. So I'm putting up on the screen right now the proposed De'Aaron Fox trade the way I envision it. And this is a very similar deal to the one that friend of the pod, Eric Pincus, came up with for Bleacher Report. I just modified it a little bit in terms of, an extra. I'll explain, actually. So this would be De'Aaron Fox, then Alex Len and Doug McDermott going to the Sacramento Kings. The Rockets would be sending Reed Sheppard, Jabari Smith Jr., Cam Whitmore, Jock Landale, and Jae'Sean Tate, along with 3 first-round picks. A 2027 Phoenix unprotected first, the Rockets 2028 unprotected first, and a 2031 swap. So I think Eric had it as 4 first. I have it as 2 and a swap. I think Eric had 4 and 2 swaps. But I put Jabari Smith in it because I think the Spurs and the Rockets both are loaded with so much ammo. One of them are going to have to overpay to get De'Aaron Fox. And, to overpay, I think the Kings could conceivably, get Jabari Smith and squeeze him out of the deal as well. So with this deal, the Kings would be getting the number 3 pick in this past year's draft, Reed Sheppard, the number 3 pick in 2022 in Jabari Smith, Cam Whitmore, who was a projected top 5 pick in 2023, and obviously he fell to the 20s to Houston. Then Jae'Sean Tate and Jock Landale's expiring on top of the picks. So why would Sacramento do this? Sacramento would do this because if they're going to lose Fox anyway, they are getting a plug-and-play power forward who can play alongside Sabonis and Jabari Smith Jr. They would be getting a developmental project in Cam Whitmore, who has flashed, I think is a polite way to put it. He's more than flashed when he actually, is able to get the playing time, because that Rockets rotation is very difficult to crack. And Reed Sheppard, again, number 3 pick in the draft this past year. He could step in and potentially be, your starting point guard from, maybe not starting point guard, because there's still a question about his playmaking, but, starting in that backcourt. So this is the Kings cap sheet as currently constructed with De'Aaron Fox. They are about a little under $2 million under the luxury tax. So there's no way, especially they trade De'Aaron Fox, that they're going to be willing to go into that. So this is what the cap sheet looks like with this De'Aaron Fox to Houston trade, where they would have to cut Orlando Robinson and Jay Crowder. So that's where we see the dead cap. And then they shed a couple $1 million, so that $166.3 million, luxury tax is $170.8. This would also, given Sacramento's cap situation this offseason, it looks like they're going to be right up against the tax. And you could see that here. Assuming they use their entire mid-level exception, and right now their pick, I believe, would be projected as the 8th pick in the draft, and that projected number on this cap sheet is 120% of the rookie scale for the number 8 pick. And then you put in the cap holds, and they're about $400,000 under the luxury tax, which is, as you know, they're towing the line of danger, essentially, in terms of going into the tax. So for the Houston side of things, this is Houston's cap sheet now. They $10 million to work with, so they aren't, in danger of going to the luxury tax or anything. So they could actually, relieve Sacramento from a couple $1 million if they needed to, in order to make sure Sacramento, if they have another move up their sleeve, to make sure that they wouldn't go over the luxury tax. Now, if you add De'Aaron Fox to this roster, they're at $164 million. That's factoring in trade for De'Aaron Fox with the guys we discussed. And then in 2025-26, the Rockets still have wiggle room to work with. So this current cap sheet that I have up has Fred VanVleet with the team option at $44.8 million. This would be with the Rockets picking up both Fred VanVleet's and Aaron Holiday's team options. As you can see, Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green, both the rookie extensions kick in. They're both at $33 to $34 million a year. Now, let's say Fred VanVleet is willing to re-sign with Houston at a much lower number, let's say $35 million instead of the $44.8. And Fred VanVleet, we see the Zeus all the time. They'll sacrifice, $10 million in the 1 year to get later on long-term money. So let's say Fred VanVleet signs a 3-year, $100 million deal, basically descending, starting at $35 million. This is where the Rockets would be at. And this is assuming they pick up Aaron Holiday. There's a shot they could decline Aaron Holiday and sign him at a cheaper number or let him walk. But anyway, this is the number that we'd be at. They'd be right at the luxury tax, but it seems like they'd be able, to avert a crisis. So that's what a Houston deal would look like. As for San Antonio, the Spurs are able to give Sacramento maybe a bit more of an ability to compete now with some of the players they're offering, because they're offering a bunch of, high-level role players. And the Spurs, I would say, in this package are offering better picks than the Rockets picks. But the players the Spurs are offering aren't as, they don't have the upside that the guys that the Rockets have. So here's the trade I assembled. It would be De'Aaron Fox. The Kings also get off of Kevin Huerter's contract, Alex Len, and Doug McDermott. The Spurs would send Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, Jeremy Sohan, and Trey Jones, along with 2 second-round picks, and this year's Atlanta first, this year's Chicago first, which is top 10 protected this year, top 8 protected in 2026, and top 8 protected in 2027. So, the hope is for the Kings would trade for this pick, that the Bulls are still a lottery team in the next few years, maybe as early as this year, but, the protection doesn't fall and they get, a late lottery pick, as well as the 2027 Atlanta first. So this actually may be the deal. Again, I'm not Monte McNair. I'm not Wes Wilcox. I'm not in the Sacramento Kings front office. So I don't know what trade they would prefer. But with this trade, you could slide Tre Jones into your starting point guard spot this year. You get Jeremy Sochan, who is, a short role playmaker who I think would fit excellently alongside Domantas Sabonis, who could also play some defense. Zach Collins would be the big off the bench backing up Sabonis. And Keldon Johnson, he could basically replace Kevin Huerter's production in this deal. So, if not better. So here is San Antonio's cap situation now. They are way under the tax, so again, they could give the Kings some cap relief if necessary, but which it looks like they actually did a little bit in this deal. And then if you put De'Aaron Fox on this team and go through this trade, here is what the cap sheet looks like now. So the question is, in a Spurs deal, would the Kings want to get Devin Vassell as like the main piece? It's highly plausible. For purposes of this, I just think between having Wemby alongside De'Aaron Fox, Devin Vassell, and Stephon Castle, I think that's a hell of a core to work with and grow with. So for the Spurs' sake, I hope they'd be able to keep Devin Vassell. But there's a possibility the Kings could say, hey, we want Stephon Castle. Spurs will refuse. They just took him 4th overall. And then, the middle ground they meet is Devin Vassell. I don't know. I'm just speculating, as I've already stated. But this is assuming they keep Devin Vassell. And then if we look at the Spurs' current, without the De'Aaron Fox deal, their 2025-2026 cap sheet. This factors in 3 first-round picks, the rookie pick cap hold at number 11, which is Chicago, number 14, which is their own, and number 18, which is Atlanta. And again, that's 120% of the rookie scale. The Spurs actually are, $11 million. They have $11 million in cap space, basically, to work with. So they could operate over the cap and get the $14 million mid-level exception and I think it's $5 million the $5.1 million biannual exception. They could very well do that and, fill up the roster with even more money than what they have, rather than using the $11 million in cap space and the room exception next year. Either way, Spurs, financially are fine. But if they trade for De'Aaron Fox, this is what we're looking at. They would still have access to the mid-level exception or biannual exception, and they would still have the number 14 pick in the draft, which would be their own. But obviously that pick 11, pick 18 have gone to Sacramento in this deal, as has Zach Collins, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sochan, and Tre Jones. Tre Jones was expiring, so that's money that would have been coming off the books that no longer is now that you have Fox. And again, Kevin Huerter is now on the books for the Spurs. So, they're still fine. They won't be operating as a cap space team or even have that possibility. But again, they still have room for the mid-level exception. They still have room for the biannual exception. And, they're still well under the luxury tax. So either way, both the Rockets and the Spurs are both in such good financial stability that they could swing for a guy like Fox and try to pair Fox with Wemby or try to pair Fox with, the budding core that the Rockets have, like Alperen Sengun, Jalen Green, and, Fred VanVleet is a stabilizing force. So now Fred VanVleet has had a down year this year, but, given the Rockets are the 2 or the 3 seed, I think the 3 seed in the West right now, his veteran leadership is invaluable. He's still a hell of a player. He's averaging the least amount of points he's been averaging since 2018, 2019. So it's been a while since he, hasn't had a scoring production quite like this. But that's why I demonstrated that cap sheet that shows, VanVleet's team option being declined, but him signing a $100 million extension essentially, because he's still, I would say, about a $100 million player, especially to a team like Houston. So, yeah, these are the 2 landing spots I really want to talk about, Houston, San Antonio. I think they're just about the most fun landing spots we could talk about. Maybe OKC would be more fun. I think Orlando for De'Aaron Fox would be a lot of fun. But the Spurs, the Rockets. This is the type of package the Kings will be looking at. So rate and review the Bird Rights podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Comment on this video, like this video, share this video. Let me know, what you think regarding where De'Aaron Fox is going to be and if he's going to go anywhere, or he could stay in Sacramento conceivably. So you can follow me on Twitter at @the_NBAGel. That's NBAGELL. Again, big review, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Go check out my work on the Center Hub, the-center-hub.com. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.